Good evening, everyone. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the old Boonton branch. Um, so basically what happens is that in 2002, the old Boonton Line was combined with the old Montclair branch, and they formed what is today called the Montclair Boonton Line. So what happens is, you can see over here, we zoom in a little bit. Um, Here is the old Boonton line, and here is the new Montclair Boonton branch. So this connection was made at Bay Street. So as you can see, the train comes all the way out from Hackettstown, runs through Denville, etc. Upper Montclair, swings down. So that's Bay Street, Montclair, Glen Ridge, Bloomfield, etc. Watsessing Avenue. Um, as you see in another video, I'm trying to get the old Ampere station opened up again. We have the old Roseville Avenue station, which at some point should ideally also be opened up again. And then it goes in Newark Broad. There actually used to be a stop in Harrison at one point as well. And then I don't know how likely that is to get open, but that at least you can argue is somewhat near the PATH train. But anyway, the stations on the western end, um, you know, have less coverage in terms of rail access. Um, but the main focus of this video today is going to be the eastern part of the old Boonton line and possible alternatives as to what it could become. So this is proposed to become the old as the I guess the new Essex County Greenway, or I guess Essex Hudson Greenway, depending, because this is Essex County, Glen Ridge, Bloomfield, etc. This is actually Hudson County, even though it's on, the Passaic River. It's a small river. This is actually Hudson County, and people think of it as part of Essex County because transportation-wise, it's actually fairly hard to get from here to the rest of Hudson County. If you want to get from North Arlington down to down to Hoboken, Jersey City, you got to take the number 76 all the way to Newark, or the 30 all the way to Newark. Actually, the 30, I mean, hopefully when the Newark bus redesign comes along, we'll run to Newark Penn full time. But, right now it goes to Lincoln Park. It doesn't even go to connect to the PATH train, except on Sundays and, weekdays and Saturdays after about 7 p.m. You could also take the number 40 bus to Harrison, but you have to go all the way down from North Arlington or even Kearney, all the way down to Harrison to the PATH train, and then take the PATH train across. And depending on what time of the well, actually, you're always going to have to transfer because I mean, if you want downtown Jersey City, of course, that's going to get you straight there. But if you want Hoboken or even Newport, you're gonna have to transfer at Journal Square for the one that goes to 33rd. If you want Newport, um, depending on the time, you might need to transfer either Grove Street um, or Exchange Place for a train to Hoboken, depending on if it's a weekend or late at night when it's the 33rd Hoboken Journal Square line running, or if it's the split up into the Hoboken to World Trade, Hoboken to 33rd, and then the direct ones, 33rd to Journal Square. Depending on what's running, you're gonna have to transfer again from the Newark path over to a path that goes to Hoboken. So and just visually you can see this. You have to go all the way down and then go across to make the transfer. So we see road wise, the New Jersey Route 7, Belleville Turnpike, does have a direct connection. And if you remember from my New Bus Newark video, one of the things that I had in mind, or at least was pondering, if you want to call it, was extending the number 92 bus instead of ending in North Arlington to run to Journal Square. Now, as much as a benefit as that would be in terms of connectivity, because you get direct access to the Midtown path. That path train also runs to Hoboken. Sorry, on the weekends it runs to Hoboken and late at night. Um, but yeah, buses that you have the number 87. Is there another one besides the 87? It's just the 87 that runs to Hoboken directly if you want to take the bus. So there's definitely good connections, and of course from Journal Square you could also get to Point South. You can get to Bayonne. You can get to the southern part of Jersey City. So what's being discussed is that some people want to turn this into a greenway, similar to the High Line in Manhattan, which was also an old rail line. And what happens is, as much as it sounds good, oh, plant more trees, etc. This area has a great need for better mass transit connectivity, and ideally mass transit connectivity in a dedicated right of way. You could extend the 92 all the way to Journal Square, but it might not be too reliable, especially for the core ridership between Bloomfield and South Orange. You don't want to mess up the reliability if you don't have to. So you're faced with that choice of either extend it to Jersey City and make it more unreliable, or keep connectivity as poor as it is and leave it in North Arlington. I guess another option too, if you wanted to, you can go up and go to Lyndhurst or Rutherford and then go back down. But A, that's usually a little bit more expensive. And B, the train over there usually doesn't run as frequently as the PATH train. And it's also a backtrack. You have to go north just to go back south, and the other way you go south to kind of head back north again. So running transit along this right away would definitely improve connectivity between this portion of Hudson County and the main portion of Hudson County, and of course Essex County proper and areas to the east, including all parts of Hudson County, because even right now the 92 doesn't, as you can see, turns off. This is a little bit of an older map, but the 92 still does run in this way. Belleville Avenue to Franklin, ending at the light rail station, Frenchbrook Park. So I think it's very clear that a greenway by itself is not enough. If they can find enough land to build a greenway alongside the transit way, that's fine, more power to them. But a transit way definitely needs to take priority in this project. You could always bring your bike on the train. You could bring your bike on some of the on the other light rails and everything like that. So I have no problem with bringing the bike onto the train, but people shouldn't be depending on what is it, 9 mile walk as actual transportation to get people to work on time. I mean, a 9 mile walk is 3 hours. I don't think anybody wants to walk 3 hours to work and walk 3 hours back as an actual commute. So, that being said, whatever, I'm all for, environmentally friendly ways, but mass transit definitely has to be a part of that equation. So there's a couple of different ways. Heavy rail, which kind of gets thrown out almost right away, because if most of the trains are running along the current Montclair Boonton line, you're essentially running a heavy rail shuttle just to serve a couple of different areas, Arlington, maybe North Newark, and maybe Bloomfield, and even Glen Ridge. By then it's like just a few blocks away from the current station. So heavy rail is almost certainly out of the question, unfortunately. So heavy rail meaning, I guess, commuter rail. I mean, heavy rail like a PATH train is probably also out of the question, unless for some reason PATH wants to, come in and build another, branch off of its current system, which I wouldn't be opposed to. But the question is how to exactly integrate it. I guess you would probably have to extend the 33rd Street line over, over into into Arlington and North Newark and so on. But then the question is, are you allowed to have grade crossings and things like that? I mean, it's possible, I suppose. Maybe I guess I'm talking myself out of ruling it out as an option because I guess it's possible. I know in Chicago they have, you know, heavy rail. I think the yellow line is the one that, it runs trains every few minutes down, at subway, with subway cars, down some of the streets in some of the northern suburbs of Chicago. It doesn't run like on the street, but it does have at-grade crossings. So I suppose that's an option. But the two main ones that I wanted to focus on were light rail and bus rapid transit. The other thing is, and I guess this is another thing to consider, the um, the right of way in a lot of areas you can kind of zoom in only seems to be wide enough. So we're going to look in the area of the old Arlington station. Let's just zoom in. It was around Elm Street. There we go, Elm Street. Arlington, we can see it right here. Arlington Station, New York and Greenwood. Elm Street. Okay. Ooh, boy. There we go. There we go. All right. So, see some guy getting a camera on there. I think, this would I don't know if this is the old platform, but we can see this was a one-track line at one point. The question is, is the right of way wide enough at all points to accommodate two tracks? I'm not 100% sure, but if it were to only be one track, probably something like a river line type setup where it's, you know, and then depending on the thing, you could run it off wires or you could use it using DMUs. I guess each one has its pros and cons. The wires are obviously a little bit unsightly, but at the same time, um, more environmentally friendly. The DMUs are, obviously you don't need to hang any electrical infrastructure overhead, but they do, pollute the environment a little bit if they're DMUs. So what happens is that you could run it with, passing sidings and, just, make the schedule at such a frequency that the trains can meet each other at the passing sidings. Obviously you reduce your capacity by only having single tracks because, instead of the trains running, just a couple of minutes apart, down the single one, you have to always consider, enough time to basically your frequency is dictated by the distance and time between your passing sidings. So you could run it as light rail. That's one option. Now the question is if you have enough space to build a busway, that's another option. So the question is, which buses, you could just run straight up and down the line. If you're going to be self-contained, it almost leans better towards, just a light rail setup. If you're going to start branching out and having, buses that come off of the off of the right of way, off of the busway, then of course it leans more in favor of the bus option. So the thing is that the Newark bus redesign is structuring a lot of its services to run, to run down, more frequently down these main streets. So the question is, how to, I would almost lean in favor of just the light rail, just self-contain it and call it a day. So if in any case, whatever transit way we're thinking of, whether bus or light rail, we'd have to decide what some potential stations would be. So for reference, the stations that were open in 2002 were Benson Street and Glen Ridge, which we see is only a few blocks away from the current stop of the Montclair Boonton Line in Glen Ridge. Next, which you can't really see, but you could actually see it on the you could actually see it on the, if you zoom in on the Google Street View, is Rose Street. That was pretty much the old station right there. So you could have Rose Street in Bloomfield. I don't know. I don't believe West Arlington was open in 2002, but it might have been open at some point earlier. I don't know if we could actually see it anyway. Let's see. Really? Oh, we can. Okay, we could kind of see it. Okay. Okay. I don't know if we could really see any remnants of any platforms or anything. Next we have where we just were on Elm Street by the number 40 bus. And after that, that went over to Hoboken. So, um, so new stations given, let's say 2023, even though in practice, obviously, it would take a few years to construct and build. I'm not sure if I would necessarily keep Benson Street, given that it's fairly close to, even Bay Street. It's not that far from. But what I would probably do is move over a few blocks, actually not even that far, move over just a few blocks to Broad Street, which has connections to two routes, the number 72 and the number 709. And I've discussed in the past, I'd actually like to see the 72 cut back to Bloomfield with the remaining service consolidated onto the remaining Bloomfield Avenue routes, and also have the have this 74 be the main route running down Jersey 21 between Passaic and Newark Broad Street. So have it run Patterson, Clifton, Passaic down Main Street, Main Avenue, go down the highway, Newark Broad Street, downtown Newark, and Newark Penn. I think that would be just a much more efficient way of serving that market. But in any case, you could have a stop over by Broad Street. Now, depending on the thing, if you were to have the number 92 bus that is currently proposed in the, because the 92, the busier section is south of Bloomfield. That's why you'll notice on the schedule, the last few buses only run south of Bloomfield. They don't run out to Branch Brook Park. The other thing is too, I mean, you could argue there's some somewhat, if you want to call it, duplication, given that you also have the 27 in that area, and even to a certain extent the Bloomfield Avenue routes. If you're going between the two, not really endpoints, but between the two major hubs at Bloomfield and the Branch Brook Park Station. So if you were to end the 92 at this proposed station, let's say Broad and Maple, in practice probably just be called Broad Street. Maybe something else could take over the Belleville Avenue portion of the route. That would be yet to be determined, or you just leave it. It's not a you know you could leave it. Maybe the 27 even could take over part of that. But in any case, the 27F, to specify. The only thing is, it would, the last couple of blocks of the route in Forest Hill over on Verona Avenue would lose service. They'd have to walk over to Mount Prospect. That might also be an option. But okay, so you can have a stop at Broad Street. Probably a stop at Rose Street is all right. Rose Street would be right around here. I mean, there's nothing down like Mill Street anyway, or else, Mill is a little bit bigger street. You could have one at Franklin for the connection to, like I said, I'd call it a separate number, probably like 77 or something, Passaic to Branch Brook Park. You could have a stop right around here, Franklin Avenue, then it goes down, crosses the park, a stop at Mount Prospect, a stop at probably between Broadway and they call it the Newark Industrial Track. There's a separate proposal to run light rail from Newark to Patterson, and they're talking about two different options. One is extending the current Broad Street branch over to, down the Newark Industrial Track and over to Patterson. The other one is to take the one that goes down the west side of Branchbrook Park through Upper Roseville, swing that over, and then go up through go up this way. So actually, because the current route is kind of slow between Newark Broad and Newark Penn, I think they said it would only add about 3 minutes. I think they proposed the travel time to be 48 minutes using the Broad to Penn alignment, or 51 minutes using the I guess the main line light rail alignment, the I guess New York City subway alignment or whatever it is, because New York City subway used to be the one that went from Branchbrook Park to Newark Penn. These last two stops at Silver Lake and Grove Street were built relatively recently, about 20 years ago or so, 2002. Now it's 2003, so I forget the exact date they opened, but about 20, 21 years ago. So okay, so you can have Broad, you could have Row, Franklin, Mount Prospect, Broadway slash, transfer point to the other light rail. I guess you could have West Arlington, to cover this western section of Kearny. I suppose just for, the sake of connecting to all the buses, you could have one at Kearny Avenue, one at Elm Street to cover the eastern part and the connection to the number 40, and then swing over all the way across. And probably the next one, you could run it to Hoboken, try to run it parallel to the actual commuter rail tracks, but you could also run it down to Journal Square as well. So, and depending on the thing too, you could also try to. So confusing which track is actually the correct track, but you might be able to even serve parts of Jersey City along the way if you were to run it to Hoboken, depending on which alignment you took. But any case, those are my thoughts on the old Boonton line and potential stops and potential uses. But definitely, bus connections are going to be very important. And, the connections, that don't involve transferring at Newark Penn are going to be important because, as much of a hub as Newark Penn is, it is important to have alternate options that don't necessarily pass through there. If it would be one thing if, demand was that low that you couldn't really get the ridership if you didn't pass everything through downtown Newark. But I do believe that there is sufficient ridership to, run straight there down that alignment. So either bus rapid transit or light rail, would be a good option. And I guess in a, fantasy world where, or an ideal world rather, if we had, enough money for full grade separation and so on, we would it would be a path train extension over there. But in the meantime, looks like light rail is kind of leaning towards the best of all options. But feel free to leave your comments below and have a good night, everybody.